Hey everybody, today is Tuesday, May 25th, and this is episode 4 of the Bracy Sports Show. Today we will go over all of the NBA playoff games and series, as well as some NFL news to start the show. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on Anchor, please support this podcast by following the link in the description below, which will help sustain future episodes. Listen to audio-only versions on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by searching my name, Romello Bracy. Question of the day, which is Julio Jones worth a first-round pick in a trade? And I think this is interesting because the value of wide receivers in the NFL has kind of changed. I know when DeAndre Hopkins was traded, he was worth a second, fourth, and they threw in David Johnson, so that didn't make much sense at all. I don't know if I would probably just count that as an outlier. But I would say Julio Jones is worth the first-round pick. He's a top 10 wide receiver of all time, in my opinion. So I think you can definitely fork over a first-round pick if you're the right team, of course. But Mohamed Sanu, also his teammate in Atlanta, he was worth a second-round pick when New England traded for him. I know that was when New England was pretty desperate and had no receivers, trying to get Tom Brady some weapons near the end of the season. But Mohamed Sanu being worth a second, I would think that Julio Jones is worth a first-round pick to the right team. So I would definitely give up a first for Julio personally. And where I see him going is either Tennessee or Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis actually makes the most sense just because Carson Wentz is a new quarterback over there. Having Julio there could definitely be a safety blanket for him. And then that'll just add to Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton and officially make that offense pretty solid. And I think Carson Wentz could succeed with all of those weapons. Tennessee, I say, just because they lost Corey Davis. Other than A.J. Brown, the wide receiver room is pretty empty over there. So I can see Julio and A.J. Brown being there, and that's pretty explosive tandem. But Tannehill's not a real deep ball guy, but I think Julio can still get some run after the catch productivity, so maybe him and A.J. Brown team up. But I think Indianapolis or Tennessee, those are my two guesses. But continuing, we've got Julio actually telling Shannon Sharpe on the live show yesterday. Shannon Sharpe gave him a call and asked Julio, he's like, "You going to the Dallas Cowboys?" And Julio was like, "Definitely not the Cowboys because they're not a winning franchise." He did point out he wants to go somewhere to win, but when referring to the Atlanta Falcons, he said, "Nah, I'm out of there, man." So Julio's days in Atlanta are definitely done. He's going to get traded after the June 1st deadline there just because Atlanta will save some money. So it's really just where Julio's going to end up at this point. It's definitely not going to be Dallas. We know that. Here are the odds, actually, for where Julio will be playing next season. We've got Falcons still leading that somehow, but you've got the Chargers in there as well as the Ravens, Raiders, Jaguars. The Niners are in there, and then the Colts and Titans are up there favored most, tied with the Patriots. So Patriots, Colts, Titans are the top 3 destinations that your bet should be at if you are betting on where Julio Jones is going to end up. I think the Patriots would be so boring to me. I really don't want him to be a Patriot, but maybe it's not so boring. If they're able to do something over there, they'll have Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Julio at that point. Kendrick Bourne, who I like just because he was a Niner and he was pretty productive. On top of, who am I missing over there? Oh, Jonnu Smith, of course, who can really do it all from the tight end position. Damian Harris is actually a really good running back. I think he had a silent breakout year last year. Couldn't really stay too healthy, but I like Damian Harris a lot. So maybe it's not too bad. I just want Julio to end up with a good quarterback, someone who could push the ball down the field like Matt Ryan has been able to do throughout Julio's career. This is running back A.J. Dillon standing next to Aaron Jones over at OTAs. And A.J. Dillon is just huge. If you're listening to the audio version, you can't see it, but A.J. Dillon's legs are like twice the size of Aaron Jones. But it brings up the question to me, should the Packers have let Aaron Jones walk and kept A.J. Dillon and maybe have enough space to sign Julio? Because, I think if the Packers do sign Julio Jones, you can go ahead and guarantee that Rodgers is going to come back. If you have Julio Jones and Devontae Adams on the team with Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I'm probably picking them in the NFC. But they don't have the money for Julio, so I don't see Julio going there. I think it's a perfect fit if somehow the Packers are able to manage their money in a way that they can sign Julio Jones, but I don't see that happening. Moving forward, we're going to get right into the NBA playoffs, and we're at full swing. Every game is at least one game in. Some of them are 2 games in, so really heating up here. We've got the 1-8 matchup, just to start, I want to talk about is the Utah Jazz against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies came out and won the first game, really shocked everybody. John Morant, Dillon Brooks, they've been doing their thing lately, so you can't sleep on the Grizzlies. I think they're going to play hard every game. Utah did play without Donovan Mitchell, though, so that's a big story, too, actually. Donovan Mitchell has been pretty unpleased with the organization. He was told the day before he would be ready to go for Game 1, and then game time came, and they told him he was going to need to sit. So he's frustrated with the organization. My bet is that he plays Game 2. Moving on to the next series, we've got the 4-5 with the Clippers and the Mavs. Dallas actually did win the first game pretty handily. It wasn't too close. Luka dropped a 30-point triple-double, doing what he does in the playoffs. So Dallas leads that series 1-0. We've got the 3-6 matchup, which actually played Game 2 last night between Denver and the Portland Trailblazers. The Trailblazers were actually down like 30 at one point in this game, and Dame exploded in the second quarter. It was like something I hadn't seen before, actually. I feel like there was almost 5 straight possessions where he went down the court and pulled up a 3, and Denver's defense just didn't understand what was happening. He was pulling from the logo, and Dame was hot in that second quarter. But other than that second quarter, I think he finished with 40, but he had 20 that quarter. Didn't really do too much. Jokic is kind of the center of attention to this game. He finished with 30 points plus, and I'm sure his assist and rebound numbers were almost close to a triple-double, but I know he did not quite get one. So that series is tied 1-1. I picked Portland to win that series. Denver looks pretty good with their rotation of Marcus Howard, who actually didn't get much playing time in the regular season, but he's got some minutes ever since Jamal Murray went down, and he's actually been pretty serviceable. And then their starting point guard is, I believe his last name is Campazzo. I saw him playing last night. He's one of those foreign guys who can, he's shifty. He's got good passing. Not going to be the most athletic guy in the world, but he was getting the job done last night. The combination of him and Marcus Howard doesn't make up for Jamal Murray, but it's not too bad. So Denver looks a little bit better than I thought, and Aaron Gordon also hit a couple threes last night that halted a Portland run. So I like Aaron Gordon there. They're a little bit better than I thought they would be. So I think the Trailblazers still win that series. It's going to be a little bit tougher, though, to get past them. Once they get Jamal Murray back next season, though, I would definitely look at the Nuggets as Western Conference contenders. Moving down to the Phoenix and Lakers series, 2-7. Phoenix does lead that series 1-0. They pretty much manhandled the Lakers in Game 1. Anthony Davis looked pretty suspect again, and I don't know what's wrong with him. I know he hasn't played really much of the season, but he needs to turn it on if they have any chance. LeBron is doing what he needs to do, but I don't know if it's enough for them to win. I need to see more from Schroeder. I need to see more from Drummond. I need to see more from these other guys. Harrell. They have such a deep roster, and I'm pretty disappointed of what they've been able to do so far outside of Alex Caruso, who's actually been pretty damn good for them. All right, moving on to the eastern side of the bracket, we've got the 1-8 matchup between the Wizards and 76ers. Philly leads that series 1-0. I don't see Washington really coming close in this series at all, so we can kind of skip through that one. But the 4-5 matchup between the Knicks and the Hawks, that was one of the most exciting games of the playoffs so far. Trey Young is hooping for sure, and the Knicks put Frank Ntilikina on him to guard him at the last possession of the game for the buzzer beater, and Trey Young took him to the cup, did another little floater. I think he had a bunch of floaters that game. New York needs to do something to guard him for sure, but Atlanta has a lot of young pieces, a lot of a lot of young talent. I really like. They have John Collins down there. They have Clint Capella, who they pretty much got for free, and he's the rebound leader in the NBA. Actually, I believe so. So Atlanta's got a lot to offer. The Knicks lose that game close, despite Julius Randle having a terrible game. I think he was really just trying to do a little too much in his NBA playoff debut. Going on to the 3-6, though, Milwaukee and Miami. Milwaukee is looking very nice heading into the next round. I say that just because they're up 2-0 on the Heat. The Heat aren't any bums, but they lost by 34 points last night. So I like the Bucks quite a bit. I picked them to win that series. I thought it would be a little bit tougher. It's definitely not over yet, just because the Heat aren't going to stop coming at you. So Milwaukee's got to be ready for that. And the last matchup I want to talk about is the Brooklyn Nets against the Boston Celtics. Brooklyn leads that 1-0. I believe Game 2 is going to be today, so we'll see how that goes. Not very interested in this series either. I'm definitely taking the Nets as they continue to build their camaraderie. Some big-time performers, though, in the NBA playoffs that I wanted to point out. We've got Trey Young here first, who achieved a double-double in his NBA playoff debut. Almost a triple-double, actually. 7 rebounds in that game, 32 points to go along with 10 assists, and the game-winning shot. So big kudos to Trey Young. He's an exciting young player. He's not just a three-point shooter, and he's really surprised me. I didn't think he was going to come in the NBA and have the type of success that he's had. So good for Trey. Happy for him. Another big-time performer was last night. Jokic went ahead and led the Nuggets to tie the series 1-1, and the Joker finished with 38 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. We've got to point out the Memphis Grizzlies because they just balled out in this last game against the Jazz. Everyone has had them ruled out the past couple of games. No one actually wants the Grizzlies to be there. I mean, especially me as a Warriors fan. I was pretty pissed off that they won. I'm pretty sure everyone else wanted Curry in the playoffs, but that's how it is in the NBA. Everybody brings their lunch pail. Everybody's ready to work. So the Grizzlies steal game 1 from Utah, and Dillon Brooks finishes with 31 in his NBA playoffs debut, and you just can't say enough about Dillon Brooks. The dude is a certified hooper. I can't say anything about him. He was a second-round pick, and I think he's done more for Memphis than they ever thought he would. John Morant finished with 26, and those were both most points in a career playoff debut in franchise history for the Grizzlies. So Dillon Brooks now owns that record. Like I said earlier, the Milwaukee Bucks just annihilated the Heat last night, beating them by 34. They were up by 40 at one point in the game. It is just one game at a time, but this is really a statement win for the Bucks. I think this could really put the nail in the coffin for the Heat, or it could really wake them up. So we'll see what happens. I'm pretty optimistic about the Bucks winning this series. And that's actually going to do it for today's podcast. I appreciate everybody who came in. I know this was a little bit shorter, but the NBA playoffs are continuing today, and let's continue to see some big games from guys. Thanks for watching, and please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Comment some questions for me. I want to bring them up on the show. I can go ahead and talk about them. I can answer your questions, debate with you, whatever you think. If you're interested in coming on the show, let me know. Anything like that. I'll appreciate any sort of support. So thanks for listening, guys, and have a good one.